Bonjour, Kichekwe Indigenous Makwendo Dem, Ojibwe Anishinaabe and Dao. The University of Manitoba aspires to and embraces the spirit of the bison, which serves as our mascot. This swift, hardy being lives as a part of a herd, once so large it covered the horizon, and the sound of their hooves striking the earth sounded like the thunder of the frequent storms that give life to the plains. The bison are the largest North American land mammal, weighing 2,200 pounds at maturity and living up to 20 years. Showing great loyalty and working together as one to protect and serve even its youngest and weakest members against ferocious adversaries, bison survived and thrived in their millions on the rich abundance of the tall grass prairies of the plains, and their manure created the rich soils our province's farmers still benefit from. Hunted in Manitoba by Cree, Assiniboine, Dakota, Dene, Inuit, Ojibwe, and Anishinaabe alike, many Indigenous communities in Manitoba revered the bison, recognizing that one as a relative and one who gives its life for the survival of the people. Not only was it prized for its meat, which was dried and preserved for use throughout the year, but with the thickest hide of any North American animal, its skins were used for shelter, for hulls of rivercraft, for clothing, and for warrior shields. Its bones and sinews used for tools, such as the implements used in Indigenous agriculture and other everyday activities. The scapula bones were used to hoe the ground, to till the soil for the planting of their crops. That said, prior to European arrival, as Indigenous people did not have horses or guns, bison were initially hunted more seasonally, when their migrations brought the animals near agrarian communities. Indigenous people hunted them with spears in large groups on foot. Horses first became traded among Indigenous nations after the Pueblo Revolt took place in 1680 in what is today modern-day New Mexico. While the Pueblo people asked the Spaniards to leave, they kept their animals. The horse was gradually traded further and further north and was almost immediately adapted to bison hunting. The horse first became common among Manitoba Indigenous communities between 1750 and 1770. Guns used in hunting bison, however, came from the east through both the French and the English fur trades. Bison were enormously important to the trade for its fat, used to make the pemmican that fed the employees of the fur trade and allowed it to thrive. Métis families took to organizing large-scale buffalo hunts, particularly during the period of intense competition between the Hudson Bay Company and the Northwest Company between 1780 and 1821. Métis political organization originates in these buffalo hunts that mobilized as many as 2,000 Métis warriors at a time. Today, the bison are much diminished in number due to a variety of historical forces. As industrialization moved onward across the 19th century, machine belts were at first made from leather, and no hide in North America was as thick and durable as that of the buffalo. The wagon trails established for settlers to travel west created wide, muddy areas across which the bison could neither see nor smell food, changing their expected migration routes. Further, their enormous herds were seen as hindrance to the transcontinental railroads, causing railway companies to hire hunters to diminish the herd and even to shoot the bison from the trains themselves. As the plains were settled, the tall grass prairies with their 3 to 5 foot root systems that sustained the bison were plowed up and replaced with crops like wheat that had much shallower hold on the soil, contributing to the plains region becoming a dust bowl of blowing soil during the 1930s. The strange new plants, the fences that protected them, these also created obstacles for the survival of the bison herds. In addition to these market forces, settler state policies for Indigenous people also impacted the bison. U.S. General Sheridan, of Civil War fame, who was assigned to, quote, pacify the plains following that conflict, famously supported buffalo hunters in order to force Indigenous nations into a submission that would require them to be dependent upon the U.S. government, who could then limit their movements. A dependency for food, a dependency for clothes, a dependency for their economic well-being. One U.S. Army colonel in 1867 told a hunter expressing guilt over killing 30 buffalo during one hunting trip, replied, "Kill every buffalo you can. Every buffalo dead is an Indian gone." Once numbering more than 30 million, Only 324 remained in the wild by 1884. Their bones covered the West and were gathered by settlers for fertilizer and to sell for the making of bone china. Today, the bison enjoys protection in both the United States and Canada, and is also famed for their meat, which you'll be able to get at some stores and restaurants right here in Winnipeg. It is estimated that around 362,000 bison were living in North America as of 2017, of which around 18,000 live in wild in the public parks and another 20,000 on tribal lands. While their numbers can't hold a candle to what they once were, their continued endurance speaks to the strength and beauty of these animals who have been so central to the histories of both Indigenous and settler communities in Canada, and to the spiritual lives of Indigenous people here as well. In an era in which we're seeing more and more discussion about mascots, it's with pride that we can turn to the bison as a mascot that represents both the Indigenous and non-Indigenous people, students, staff, and faculty of our campus.